Good evening. I'd like to reconvene the September 21st, 2010 regular meeting, and we do know that the meeting has been officially warned. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes from September 7th.
Move for approval of the minutes of September 7th.
Any corrections? All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And one abstention, 301. Chair's remarks. Nice to be back. Hope that everybody enjoyed summer. Great summer. A lot of construction going on in our community. The paving projects throughout the town and the sidewalks. Minimal complaints, and that's a testament to the Lane Construction and their subcontractors, and also our staff working well in terms of communication with not only the citizens but the downtown business community, and I wanted to thank them for that. Other than that, that's all I have. Barb, you have anything?
Just real quick, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Leo LeClaire. He was an officer with the Brattleboro Police Department for many years. And in fact, today there was already had been scheduled a lunch for the police retirees, and it's a little bit dampered by the passing of Mr. Clare. I'd like to just send out my condolences and sympathies to his family, and again thank him for his years of service to the town of Brattleboro. And then with then there was, I was going to give a little bit of my time to Daryl to talk about something we did together this past week.
We were very fortunate to get invited to do some, we got to play firefighters for a day this week. Me and the town manager and a few other people from around the state. And I got to tell you, I've always been a big supporter of police and the fire, and there's a reason for that. But to put on the gear and go into a smoke-filled room was, with a respirator on and everything, was really something. And just kind of like brought everything to home. And one other thing that happened through it all, of course, we just had the 9/11 thing. And one of the things with these packs is the beeper goes off when you're not moving much. And I don't know if Barb's group, what happened there, but when we'd stop, you'd hear all these beepers going off, and you knew what that meant. And that really kind of hit home. It was quite an experience for me, and I'm pretty sure it was for Barb too, because we talked a little bit about it afterwards. And I just want to thank the State Firefighters Association for inviting me, and I want to thank all of our firefighters for the work that they do. And Ron, who was there, Captain Ron Hubbard, Peter Lynch, and Dave Emery Jr. were also there, so I just wanted to give them a little kudos, and it was really quite a experience. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jesse?
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to personally extend my condolences to the LeClaire family. I can remember in the late 70s, early 80s when I was in the state's attorney's office, and Leo was in the police department at that time, and a lot of his time was spent not only dealing with the street, walking the streets and dealing with crime and things like that, but one of the things that he did and spent a lot of his time at was repairing the meters, the parking meters. Now, they've all been changed out since that time, of course, but he spent untold number of hours, and I think a lot of his personal time, I know a lot of his personal time, and probably a time that he just gave to the town without charging it to keep our parking meters in operation. So, and I know the LeClaire, a number of the members of the LeClaire family, and there's a lot of LeClaire's in the area, and I extend my sincere condolences to them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let me just say one thing. The police, the union put on a acknowledgement of the retirees. This is the first time it's been done for I'm not sure how long, and it was really nice at the end. They all kind of started loosening up a little bit and started telling stories, and I think it was Dick Guthrie who got up and was talking about when he started, they didn't have radios, They didn't have backup lights, they didn't have vehicles, they didn't have, and so I made a note for the budget session so that we can. So it was a good time, they had a good time, and I was, Jean kept looking at me.
I see Chief Wren is not here tonight.
That's right, that's right.
He left in one of the cars.
That's right.
Okay. Select Board Committee reports. Actually, Barb and I today had a meeting with CRT in terms of the transition with the bus, trying to make that as seamless as possible. We believe that that's going to happen. We're looking at about a month and a half out, hopefully. That's our target date, not etched in stone, but a very productive meeting with them as they will be taking over the bus service in town. Public participation. This is where you have an opportunity to speak on something that is not on our agenda here this evening. And if you come up to the microphone, I will give you, have to tell me, give us your name and the town that you're from, and I'll give you about 2 minutes to express yourself. Yes, Mr. Dimes.
Good evening, my name is Kurt Dimes. I'm from Brattleboro District 2. I've been working with among anti-nuclear activists around Brattleboro and doing lots of surveys of people's opinions on the street. I generally take opinions of people while they're walking up and down Main Street. And in my petitioning work for various resolutions around town, I found that there is a desire among the people to address the issue of Brattleboro's stance on Vermont Yankee. Namely, Brattleboro voted 2 years ago for Vermont Yankee to shut down, yet there is no way for Brattleboro to actually implement that with its own budget. Because as it is now, Brattleboro's roughly $500,000 electric bill is invested partly in power from Vermont Yankee that goes onto the grid. I have a modest example of a proposal that attempts to address this, and it reads, whereas the voters of Brattleboro have resolved that Vermont Yankee shall be closed, whereas many people are concerned to maintain equal output when Vermont Yankee is closed, and whereas the Central Vermont Public Service Corporation, CVPS, maintains a program called Cow Power for developing investments in renewable energy that can replace nuclear power, we, the voters of Brattleboro, resolve by this writing, to be known as the Equal Output Resolution, that electric power purchased from the town shall be generated from renewable sources like cow power, and we recommend further that residents of Brattleboro should consider this choice for their homes. Cow power is a regular part of CVPS's portfolio, and as of now, or as of a few weeks ago when I talked to Mr. Dunn, who manages renewable energy for CVPS, roughly 4% of Brattleboro residents already use cow power. But the main idea is Brattleboro voted against Vermont Yankee. This is a way for Brattleboro to invest its power budget in renewable energies to advance renewable energy for the future. If we participated 100% in this program, it would cost roughly $142,000 per year, roughly $12 per person per year. And we can also buy into the program at 50 or 25%. I hope the board can accept this kind of proposal and perhaps come up with something along these lines to address, to implement Brattleboro's stance on Vermont Yankee. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Tom Fennell. I'd just like to lend my support to Kurt's proposal. The cow power is a trademark. It doesn't necessarily come from cows. Some of it does. But it's a program by which you pay a premium, slight premium, for renewable energy, and it goes to encourage producers of renewable energy. For me, it answers the question, what are we going to do for power when Yankee closes? Now, there is right now plenty of power in the grid. more than we need because of the slowdown economically. That's not going to last forever. When that's over, we're going to need more power, and to encourage small, locally owned, locally produced forms of renewable energy would be very desirable. And this program, which is probably more symbolic than anything else, will encourage producers to produce power. Right now, as we speak, there's probably about 3 private corporations in town that are looking at this program to start generating power in town. And I'd just like to encourage you to think about it and eventually to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing no one else, we have nothing for liquor commissioners?
Nope.
No? And so I'll accept the motion to go into water and sewer commissioners.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0.
Okay. We have Gene Forbes with Hoyle Tanner, the engineering firm doing our wastewater treatment plant upgrade, and the Public Works Director, Steve Barrett, here tonight to talk a little bit about a change order that's in front of you for the RBC contracts, and then I believe Jane's going to give us an update on the general project. We have a bid opening this week, so pretty exciting.
I'll start a little bit with the change order. This change order, this was for the first phase of the wastewater treatment project that was actually started earlier this year. And the bids were actually approved about a year ago on today. And in this contract, it's part of the secondary treatment process. They're called the rotating biological contactors. There's a housing to them, and in its simple form, there's like cement pools. And when we took the tops off, we knew that probably some of the old concrete would have spalled and needed some type of treatment. So that's what this change order is. Once the covers were taken off, to do a treatment to this cement surface. And actually, we found a way. The original estimate was quite high. We looked at alternatives, and we're able to come up with basically an asphalt sealer, similar with what you would do to a foundation. So that's what this change order is all about. It was known right from the start. So just wanted to brief people on that.
And the project is completed presently?
The project's
That
completed.
part of the project?
There's still some, Gene and
There's some punch list work. Right now, what's left is essentially, there's a training requirement and a final performance testing that's ongoing now. But I would add also, in addition to the concrete work, there was about $2,000 spent on the mud valves, which we knew we were replacing as part of the project. When we got down in there, we saw that the stems and some of the hardware also needed replacing, so we at the same time put in new stem guides and stainless steel hardware for those mud valves. Overall, the project came in very well under budget. We started off with a budget for engineering that was underspent by about $28,000. We had contingency in the construction work for change orders like the concrete work, and underspent the contingency by $139,000 for a total budget savings of about $167,000 below our project estimate when we went into this project. So we're very happy with it. The contractor did a good job. Right now, we're excited about Thursday's bid opening for the major plant upgrade, and we should be in good shape for that.
I'd like to add also that the oversight committee has been very active when they did review this change order. It's been an active committee. They've looked at everything we've done throughout the process, and they approved this change order also, and have been a pretty important part of the process, I think. It's been helpful.
Real quick too, just to add about the RBC project, it came in under budget, but we had also anticipated that this may go into the spring with some of the work, and we're done well ahead of time as well. So it was a great success, I think.
Yeah.
It was a 300-day contract, as I recall. They got it done just a little over that. Is that right?
Yeah, we extended it because of some of the weather issues with
Right.
applying the concrete coating and the delays of doing that 4
Right.
times for all 4 trains. And so our goal was to get the work done before the next contract was let, so we achieved that goal, because we don't want the contractors banging into each other there.
Right.
And all of that work is done now.
Good.
And I would remind you too that the total project cost was about $3.6 million, including all the engineering and construction work. Of that, I'll remind the board and the folks here listening in that part of that was a $1 million grant through the ERA stimulus package, which was another reason we expedited this portion of the work ahead of schedule of the main upgrade to the plant.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the change order number 1 to the RBC replacement contract with Infrastructure Construction Corporation in the amount of $28,928.
Discussion? Yes, Darrell?
I'd like to add, now that is exactly why, Gene. The last time you sat in that chair, I said it was a pleasure working with you, because this really, and Steve's group too, and that's where I want to also give some kudos to, is the staff down there has done a lot of the work themselves. Now, I'm not talking about a lot of the big stuff, but a lot of the smaller stuff, which I appreciate. It has saved us a lot of money, and they have done a very good job, and they are more than happy to do it. I mean, this is our town employees stepping up and doing a little more than what is asked of them, and I, for one, appreciate that. So I wanted to make sure I publicly said that to that staff. Thank you.
Do you want to take the vote on this before we talk a little bit more about change orders?
Well, I thought that this could be incorporated into the discussion, actually,
Okay.
because that's what I was going to ask about.
Okay.
As I was reading the narrative here over the weekend, it talked about change orders coming to the board, as was our practice with the tri-park. I don't think that there's anything happening on these projects in light speed where change orders can't come to the board. And if they are that significant, then we have the ability to have a special meeting to approve a change order. I think it's beneficial, even with the oversight committee, I think it's beneficial to have the board have a clear understanding of what the expenditures are, so that they have the opportunity to ask questions about any change orders that come forward. I think that several years ago, we really changed the precedent of how we do business financially. I think it's been beneficial for the town. So my feeling is that I strongly feel that we should still get the change orders for these big construction projects. Because I really, as I read the narrative, it looked like you were going out to bid, so there was certainly ample time. But even having said that, if this is something that Steve says we need to get this done, we can get 3 board members together quick enough to do a change order. And I've been around construction long enough to know that it doesn't happen that fast. Dora?
Well, I agree with Dick, and I just want to add that, when it comes to the board, one, it's good for the board members to demonstrate that they have a good understanding of what's going on in a public manner. And this is the only opportunity most of the time that the public has to know what's going on with the project, and having those change orders come up on a regular basis and having it discussed among the board members and for the public to be able to see that people are paying attention is important.
Can I just explain maybe for people, in case you don't know, during the projects, you have a certain amount of a contingency. Sometimes there's a change that occurs that has to occur while you're in the middle of a construction project, and that gets translated financially into what they call a change order. The change order identifies, so in this case, when they went in and they saw that the part of the bolt was broken, and they had to do a change order because they were now buying the full bolt as opposed to just part of it, and so that increased the cost by $2,000. Those are small things that add up in projects. So I just wanted to explain actually what a change order was. In this particular case with the RBCs, it's a little bit different because we're considering it a change order, and we're going to have more of these things, I think, in the bigger project. in which we knew going in that once we took the covers off, there might be work that was going to, we knew that was a big unknown, what the condition of the cement was. And so it was a change order in that, but it wasn't unexpected either. It was an unknown condition and that we had planned, and we said, okay, this may occur. That's why we have a contingency. But that, and I think that as we move forward, there are certain things in our plant that we're looking at maybe not replacing, but we have a 40-year-old plant, and so we may get in there and find out, oops, we're going to need to replace this, and vice versa as well. So I just wanted to make it clear to the public what we were talking about here.
Yeah, I don't think this is even open for discussion. I think we should just continue the way we did with the project out in West Brattleboro with the water and sewer, and do the same with this part of the project, like we have with this RBC tonight, and any future ones with the water treatment plant upgrade. And assuming they would go through, it's hopeful, we have that committee, oversight committee, as long as it goes through them first, and hopefully can get to them first, and then we'll get their view, because there's some excellent people on that committee that have a lot of background in this area. One of them worked for the town for a number of years. So I think that would be helpful for them to look at it and then get it to us. And I think it is incumbent, where the buck stops here, so we need to know about those things, I think.
Steve?
And I agree with all that, and the one thing we also need to keep in mind is when we are constructing and doing a project, there's change orders that do need to happen soon.
Right.
It could be an alteration in a pipe, it could be a change in a valve, it could be a change in alignment of something, or something that doesn't stop the process. So there are things that, when you're in motion, you have to make decisions. But all this, I don't disagree, should come back. So we may have to make decisions, the engineering and myself, that said this is the right thing for the town, and then we're going to report back to you. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a little bit of flexibility versus saying this is a change order, stop until, because there will be 2 weeks, and the board can be informed.
For instance, yeah, you're not going to go back and say, if you would have said we don't want those bolts.
Right.
I think if you can justify it to the board, you have to. That's what we need, is some justification. We're not engineers and
keeping
contractors.
the pressure down.
And to keep you informed.
Right. Right.
Darryl?
Well, that's one of the things I would want, and I agree with everything I heard, and I think that is what you want. You want it to be as out in public as much as you can, but I think if they needed a quick change order, I don't know. I mean, if it was under like $5,000, and I was throwing this out there. I mean, if it was a $5,000 thing that isn't gonna stop the project, they can't get before us in time or the committee, why couldn't we let Steve have the authority to do that? I mean, if you're talking about a big amount, yeah, we wanna keep track. We've already been in a mess before, and I don't wanna be a board member that's stuck in that mess. But I also have confidence in our, and Steve, to make the necessary for if it was
a couple $5,000 to $10,000 anyways, right? At least a couple $100.
Well, yeah, as long as I'm invited to lunch.
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't, as a board member, have a problem putting some kind of, like, if it's under $10,000 or $5,000 or something where people felt comfortable to say, okay, do the change order, go ahead, send it down through us, through the channel, so we don't have to get together to do a couple of bolts.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that. I'm certainly amenable to a minimal amount, but,
I am too.
A minimal amount is not $28,000. That's still good cab fare where I come from. Yes, Gene.
If I could also add, oftentimes on a project of this complexity, we'll do change orders that are comprised of several, maybe a dozen field orders that happen. And sometimes field orders are made right there on the spot. Like in this RBC case, for example, when we got the covers off, when the RBC's out and could physically see the concrete, our structural engineers will be looking at it and say, this is what you have to do, to what extent they've got to do it out in the field. That field order results in the change order that you see here, where that work is then calculated, estimated, and analyzed, and then finally approved or disapproved. We still have some headbutting sometimes of what the true costs are with a contractor, but I think that there are situations where authority out there for minimal amounts is a good thing to have, but certainly it's understood that we would want to bring all change orders to you, whether it was comprised of one big change or a dozen field orders.
Yeah, it behooves you as our,
I want to make sure.
as our general, yeah. I mean, is there consensus to have a minimum here? I mean, I think this project is a little bit different than Tri-Park in terms of monetary amount. You know, you're talking 33 million versus a
$33
$7
million
million.
project, I mean.
If I might, it seems as though the process that we have in place is working.
That's right.
I brought it up mainly just to make it, I always like the board to have a conscious, make a conscious
Then
decision
I
as a
guess
slippery
let's
slope.
continue as is, and if we
Yeah.
see that it becomes a problem, then we'll revisit the issue.
Okay, but this way we've had the discussion at the start of a big project.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor for a change order of $28,928. All those in favor of that change order signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
Update on the
Yeah.
project
Yes,
itself.
please.
Well, before we go there, just on this change order, I think we can continue the way we've been doing it. I don't think it's necessary for Gene to be here every time, though.
No,
We're with
no,
you
no,
there.
no, no, no.
But if it's a $100,000 change order, then maybe we want him to come down and tell us why that is.
Right.
But if it's a, $5 or $6, $10,000, in a $33 million project, if you're going to be coming down here all the time, it doesn't make
We're
sense.
not approving this change order.
Come down anyway.
Yeah, come on down.
I figured so, yes.
Okay, you're on, Gene.
Quick update. Things have all come together very well, I think, for the design. We had that completed a couple months ago, went out to bid. We did delay the bid opening a couple of weeks for time to address some deluge of questions from both the state and from contractors. Bid opening is at 2 o'clock Thursday. We did submit the application for SRF funding that was approved last meeting, I believe. And all permits are in place, with one exception. We're still waiting for a certificate, a sludge management certification, which should be forthcoming very soon. That application was made some months ago, but it's all the biosolids system, which, by the way, includes generation of electricity. So when the bids are open, we'll be going through a review, qualifications, and make a recommendation to the oversight committee. The bid schedule that we have includes a number of bid alternates that are anticipated to be sorted through to determine if the price is reasonable and if to extend the available funding for the project. Things like a second turbine for power generation is in there, as well as some architectural energy improvements on some of the buildings. So that's the process we see going forth. I would expect in about a month to be coming back here with a recommendation for award to a successful bid at all those according to budget.
And I'll just ask you a question. We've got that purchase of the railroad property is completed, is that right?
Yes.
So we've got that for staging area, which we needed?
Yes, and Bob has issued a legal opinion on the ability to use the property, which is part of the SRF application. That's all.
Good.
That's it.
Anything else? One other quick update. Mike Schramm had his second child.
There you go.
Monday morning, so that's why he's not here today.
Named him Darryl.
Congratulations to him.
Thank you.
So now somebody said that's his second child since you guys started this project. Because we've got 2 more years. I don't know if he can afford this.
I'll accept a motion to come out of Water and Sewer, Commissioners.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any unfinished business? No business? New business. We are going to take up the Dimes resolution, and I will accept a motion.
I move that the town not appeal the Superior Court decision in the case of Dimes versus the town of Brattleboro, and to schedule a general ballot question for November 2nd, 2010.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
3-1. Mr. Dimes, we will, spoke with you before the meeting, and you are amenable to the November, this being part of the November 2nd ballot.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, and what will happen is that any of the people who have requested absentee ballots, they will be mailed this separate ballot, and to turn that in if they choose to do so. So, other than that, I think the attorneys will get together and work out everything else along with the town clerk, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Monthly financials.
Thank you. You have before you the financial report for the month of August 2010, 2,201. They have the line item detail for the general fund, utility fund, parking fund, justice center, bus, and capital improvement fund. I've also included on the first page a credit report, just so it wouldn't get lost at the end of the report. So it was a report of a grant activity year to date, and August is the second month of the fiscal year. The benchmark that we typically look at, and the actual budget percentage would be 16.6% of the years completed. And, some of the accounts will be higher or lower depending on seasonal expenses and contracts.
John, have we had any unexpected expenditures so far this year, unanticipated?
Nothing big.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
Only
right.
3 months, 2.5 months into it.
Damn, we're only
But
2 months.
Steve's planning
That's
something.
wood. I don't think that's wood, man. This is wood.
And, you know, one of the things I was going to ask for is that you're here, I guess, Steve, you can give us an update on that Putney Road water problem that we had talked about, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little update on that.
Ken, we've done some research on, I guess, to go back a little bit, there's an 8-inch water main that goes from approximately from 99's Restaurants up to Cocoa Plum. There's 2 water mains up in that area. This water main serves those restaurants, Motel 6, and all the businesses in that area. We've had about 3 or 4 water main breaks, and 6 total, and 3 or 4 this year. And they cause a lot of problems up there. It puts the businesses out, the hotels out. And so we've gathered up some different estimates and alternatives, and I'd like to meet with the board to go over some of those alternatives. We do have some numbers nailed down to replace the pipe. We're talking somewhere in the area of $150,000. So that's where we're at. Originally, we thought it could be up to $300,000, so we're a little encouraged by that. So I'd like to meet with the board and look at the alternatives, explain what the alternatives are. Now that they've paved the road, we're looking at a method to actually bore underneath everything to leave the road alone.
Oh,
So-
Jesus, I like that.
So we actually stay away from everything and bore a new pipe underneath the old pipe, and in some cases take the old pipe out. So, and we hope to have, well, we need to do this before winter.
Yeah, so we're looking at having a special noontime meeting, I think.
Yeah, I point out that this is, first of all, a water and sewer issue, not a general fund issue.
Right.
We have had in our capital plan replacement of water mains to the tune of about $50,000 a year for the last several years. I checked back, we haven't used any this year or last year, so we have at least $100,000 available. Year before, I haven't gone back to 2009 yet, so we'll take a look at that.
So it's kind of a budgeted, non-budgeted item.
Yeah, I mean, we put it in our capital plan to replace a certain amount of main each year, but we have to act when we need to.
We didn't use any last year, did we? We had that Green Street, wasn't that
Yeah, wow.
last year?
Well, that comes out, that was a water main break. The capital improvement fund is to replace and to upgrade water mains, and we didn't use any of those funds. It's kind of a separate. This would actually be most appropriate because it's for upgrades of water mains that are in need.
Good.
Good, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
John, on the first page of the general fund, I don't remember seeing that on the actual taxes, we've got that as all collected.
No, that's basically the billing that went out in July, August, I guess, August 20th. Basically, the accounting entry is the revenue is recognized when we send out the bill, and then we credit accounts receivable as the collection coming in as a balance sheet item. It's a little bit higher than what we anticipated, but we know that there'll be adjustments and rebates and other things that go down. So that's going to be, I have to look at it because I'm not sure exactly how we handle those rebates. I have a discussion with a computer guy. He credited the rebates against the taxes rather than the receivables. So just an accounting issue that I need to look at. But
So that 101.36% may go down, obviously, over time.
It could, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
But I wanted to get something in there.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just on page 2, the outside fire revenue is just about double what we had planned, which is a good thing, but how has that happened in 2 months?
I believe it's a result of 1 or 2 accidents where they've had to use hazmat and build companies. I'd have to have the fire chief.
Right.
Okay. Set there. Okay, grant acceptance. Department of Corrections.
Okay, what you have, this is the offender reentry monies. You had actually, a previous meeting, had accepted a $67,000. That was actually the grant amount. That amount has been reduced to $48,500. So we're asking you to accept and appropriate the actual $48,500 from the Department of Corrections to fund the nonviolent offender program. This reduction in funds will not impact. We've already made adjustments in the budgets so that it won't be impacting the.
I make a motion then to, sorry.
That's good. Sorry.
I make a motion to accept and appropriate, whatever, $48,500 grant from the Vermont Department of Corrections to fund nonviolent offender programs.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4-0, thank you.
Okay. Next, the board is asked to authorize me, town manager, to enter into a contract with Tyler Excavating to perform the demolition of the garage on Depot Street. That's would be the Woods Garage, and that's as we begin to clean that area up as for the renovation, revitalization of that area, their Union Station project.
I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with Tyler Excavating for an amount of $8,175 to perform the demolition of the garage on Depot Street as part of the Union Station project.
Discussion.
As you go into that lot, is that the second building on your left with the railroad track on your right?
Yeah, it's the one that's the big white.
Big white one.
Cement
Might be the
block.
third building.
Okay.
It's really the third or
Third,
fourth
okay.
if you count the scale house.
Right.
And that's going to happen this fall, correct?
It'll go down within the next, as soon as we can get the power off. Tyler Excavating is ready to go in and take it down. He doesn't think it'll take any more than 2 weeks. And then what will happen is the state's going to come in and they're going to do some testing. There's 3 underground storage tanks there. They're going to do some environmental testing and then take those tanks up. And then we'll probably be done for the winter because we're going to be moving into weather when the hot mix plants close down, et cetera. Actually, at the board's next meeting, October 5th, the Union Station Committee is going to be coming before the board to present an update on the full project and decisions that have been made along the way.
Very good. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4-0, thank you. Okay. Police cruiser contract.
Yeah, last year, the board, the capital plan and the town meeting and authorized purchase of 1 cruiser. And for this current fiscal year, they authorized purchase of 2 cruisers. We're asking that the board approve the purchase of 3 cruisers, and that is a cost of $78,108, at a total cost of $78,108. While there was a bid, we did do a bid process, we ended up going with the state bid on this.
I'll accept the motion on the vehicle purchase for $78,108.
I move to approve the purchase of 3 police vehicles at a cost of, what was it?
$78,108
per vehicle.
No, altogether.
altogether.
Yeah.
I'm reading the motion as it is
Yeah,
here.
that's a total cost.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't.
Uh-oh.
Anybody know CPR?
Well, it's funny because I added that, I looked at it and I was like, oh, I missed something.
Not a dump truck.
Yeah. Couldn't afford the dump.
Okay. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor for the purchase of 3 vehicles at the cost of $78,108. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Thank you.
Next item is really just an FYI with regard to Putney Road project. Last week, Steve Barrett and I received the conceptual design plans from Vermont Department of Transportation for the redevelopment of Putney Road. The board may recall, and actually on the bulletin board in the hallway, there's a plan. This is the 4 roundabouts for Putney Road. The citizen group met, beginning of the 2000s, and working with V-Trans, an engineering firm was hired by the state to develop and present. I think 3 alternatives came before the board back in 2006. The board accepted the alternative with the 4 roundabouts, and that then went back to V-Trans. It has now come up again, and that it's moved forward to the next step, which is conceptual design. We actually did not anticipate getting the conceptual design this year. This has been actually fast-tracked, actually, and Steve will have more to say, I'm sure, on it. But our preliminary discussions with the state is that the public hearing on this will be held this November. That's the 502 hearing that's required. After that, then they begin right-of-way work, and they'll be beginning right-of-way work in 2014. And that'll be quite a bit of actual right-of-way work that'll be occurring. And then construction is to begin somewhere between 2015 and 2017. And so the reason bringing this up is that this November hearing is really important. We are now into to the point where this preliminary discussion is going to become a reality. And what will happen is the V-Trans will take that information from the public hearing and use it to refine the plans, and from there we'll be moving into the final design plans, because they're going to be closer to final design once they start right-of-way work. And so it's just to give the citizens a heads up. We don't have a date on this yet. We will be talking about it more and more as we move along this process. But again, this is a 10, 15-year process that all of a sudden you're going to wake up and they're going to be constructing.
Laura?
Well, I'd like to say that I think we should be making sure that we have the ability to put out the information and put out the plans in different places and make it available to the public prior to the hearing, so that people aren't seeing it for the, and so that people actually can be able to see it and not just, an image on the wall, and so people know what's going to happen, because that'll make it easier for them to comment on it. It's hard when people are seeing something for the first time and they're doing a public hearing and they want public comment on it, and they don't even really know what it is that they're looking at.
I agree, and I think at our agenda setting, I shared with Dick and you, Dora, the plans, the conceptual design plans, and I think that there's a very small percentage of the population that are going to be able to interpret the engineering design plans, particularly as they're in a conceptual. And I think it's one of the things that we're going to continue to struggle with is what's this really going to look like? What's this really going to mean? They have the image on the wall that we have in the hallway. For me is more useful than the conceptual design plans. We have several copies of the design plans. We can put them in the library, etc. But I would be looking to the board to, for ideas on, on how do we do that.
I think even when you look at this picture that's up on the wall, and this is our Main Street, the Route 5 corridor project, you can remember the huge outcry about the reduction of sidewalk. Well, the reality is the reduction of sidewalk was very minimal, but it got twisted around as we were going to lose, several feet of sidewalk on both sides. One of the issues is that you're looking at blueprints, and not everybody understands looking at blueprints. And so most people who are elected officials are just looking at these, having Gene here with the wastewater project. I've looked at blueprints of the project, but I can make out some of the stuff, but there's a lot of stuff it's hocus pocus to me. And that's what happens with us. We get to approve projects that we truly don't understand or can see the end picture, and that's what happens more often than not. So for us, and you, as much as you can do to familiarize yourself with the project and try to understand blueprints as much as you can, I think that's the best advice I can give people, because it is very difficult. Most of us are lay people. That's not our expertise. So, Barb?
I think one of the things, too, to understand is when you're in the public hearing processes for people to show up, and because really what they're looking for, they're not looking for us to give them, feedback on the grade. I think they're really looking for, what's important to us on Putney Road. What's important to the community for Putney Road. What we have are the 4 roundabouts. The idea there is to keep traffic moving. I'm going to say that, look at it and ask ourselves, okay, bike paths, place for bicycles is important. I think we've said as a community. We've said that, what about if we're looking at making that a mixed-use area, residential, commercial, then we're going to want to see more sidewalks than we have there. So I think in some ways we have to just, kind of sit back and say to us, what's important in that area? What do we want to see in that area? And to clearly articulate that at the public hearing I think is going to go a long way.
Well, I don't disagree. Perhaps I didn't make myself clear because I don't believe it was my intention to say that we should put out the engineering plans that no one can understand except for people who are engineers. What I would like to see is the idea of the conceptual design, copies of the thing that's on the wall over by the planning office, maybe a synopsis of the major changes that they're talking about making, so that people are informed enough to be able to participate in a discussion in the 502 hearing without it just being cold and coming in and finding things out. Because what happens is people go into those hearings and they're asking a lot of questions and they're finding things out for the first time and they can't really comment on it. And sometimes the thing that they get very upset about, or the thing that they get very excited about, is not really what it is that they think it is, because they're hearing it for the first time, but then they go and they look back and they, so that, maybe I wasn't clear, but that wasn't my intent to say that we should have all of those engineering plans out there, because that's not fruitful, but maybe a small synopsis about what the major changes are.
And that's part of the reason I'm bringing it forward tonight to the board and to the public. It's less for the board and more for the public tonight.
Jesse?
Yeah, we went through what I consider for the board an embarrassing situation with this Main Street project, and it wasn't with the sidewalks, it was more with the mast arms. The mast arms are shown on that, and we got that a year ago, in November last year. The mast arms are shown on there, and they're shown in black. That still didn't resolve the problem, and I think I see Gary Goodmote here, who's on the chair of the Planning Commission, and Steve, who is our Public Works Director, also Steve Barrett, who's here. And I think that what would be helpful to avoid that kind of thing happening in 2014 or 2015 or 2016, when probably none of us will be sitting on the board, or I'll speak for myself anyways. But I think it would be helpful if we could have at least one of the meetings in October, perhaps the second meeting in October, the 19th, and invite Steve and invite Gary, because I know that Gary and the Planning Commission has spent weeks, if not months, on this over the last few years, and could probably bring us up to date, and the public, as importantly as us, up to date as to what are the major changes, how it's going to, how traffic is going to flow and whatnot. I mean, in this project, last November we had a little video that was, shown how when the train comes through, what's going to happen up on Main Street. That still didn't answer the question about the mast arms. But I'd like to be able to avoid that kind of issue coming up. I mean, the main thing is that, are we going to have bike lanes? They're going to be roundabouts as opposed to stoplights, which, I think most people think work pretty well. At least the one at exit 3 works very well. And, what's the sidewalk situation going to be like? Because there are a number of people that walk up there. So I think, those are the main things. There may be some other things that we could point out in October that we can then also bring up again in November. So we get as much out as possible to avoid something coming up 5 years from now that may be an issue for somebody that, wasn't at one of these meetings, earlier meetings later this year.
Hear, hear. I agree. Very good. That it?
Gary's excited.
Gary? Can't wait to get here, can you?
I can barely stay seated, really.
But would the 19th work for you, Gary, if we put that on our agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll make it work for Steve, right, Steve?
That's where that works.
Okay, great.
You're good.
It's before hunting season, so we can do it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Bridge name.
All right, we have a new bridge next to the Creamery Bridge, and Steve Barrett and I have gotten tired of calling it that. So the board, over the past couple months, I guess, really has been asking for proposed names, and be careful what you ask for, because you got it. And
We're not taking any more names, right?
No, unless something really good comes in. What you have before you then is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 25, thank you. 25 names in front of you. There are other names that are not in front of you. They're on page 2. And I'll probably another 10 or 15 there. What we did with all the names that came in, we did the same process that we do for a street name, and that is we have our E911 team, which is Wayne Steyer is a dispatcher, and Jane Smith, who works in our lister's office, go through the names to make and they're looking for 3 different things. One is that there's not something already named that. So for instance, there was Living Memorial Bridge. That came back as a problematic name because we have Living Memorial Park. And if someone's calling E911 and they say Living Memorial Bridge, are they meaning one of the bridges in, it's confusing. You have to, so that's one of the things they're looking for. Is there something already, is there a similar name already in the system? The next thing they're doing is the name, is it, kind of the appropriate length, or is it too long or too complicated to say? So, for instance, the brand new bridge to my house on Guilford Street, sucks to be you, did not make it because it's too long.
That one out, didn't you, Barbara?
I know, I was looking forward to saying that.
Well, you should read the next one,
You
too.
were hoping I would say the Bush Cheney Grove
Yeah,
Palin
sure,
Memorial
why not?
Bridge to somewhere is also too long. But I just want to say thank you to those people who brought those in, because they were a couple of them that we were laughing at. Then there are, the other thing that they'll look at is alliteration, or, things that a dispatcher or someone saying may have trouble saying or gets confused. There was one that was called The New Way, and that W-H-E-Y, which was a very cute name, but it would be a confusing name if you're in a E911 situation. So that's the reason that some of the names are not on here. The other one, just to let people know, because this one came in a couple different times, a Whetstone Bridge, that did not make it because people refer to the Whetstone, the pathway, as the Whetstone Bridge, and also we have a Whetstone Drive. And the Creamery 2 or Creamery Crossing, that did not make it because of already being a Creamery Bridge and the old creamery. So there were several people who proposed those, and I want to let people know why they're not on the list.
Well, and there's a couple that have directions in them, too, and those,
Right.
they didn't like those either.
So now that I've talked about all the ones that didn't make it through the E911, I leave it to the board to talk about the ones, the 25 that did.
And I want to thank all that submitted names for the bridge. One of the things I was somewhat surprised by, that there was several that didn't think it should have any name whatsoever. It should, it's certainly not a person's name. And that actually took me aback. I thought that when I first started thinking about who are we going to name the bridge after, or what are we going to name it, I thought more people would just support naming it after a person or persons. I appreciate the emails and the contact that I've had from people. And as I was thinking about this, naming the bridge, and every board member will get to chime in, is that very rarely do you ever get to name anything within your community. And it certainly is an honor to even have your name or the name that you submitted considered. As I was sitting there reading the emails, I was thinking to myself, this shouldn't be a contest. And when you have something like this, there's no matter how you look at it, there is a winner and a loser. If you don't get picked, you lost the contest to get your name on whatsoever. And so for me, and there's several names that I could vote for as a singular name, I came up with the idea of calling it Citizens Bridge and adding names of people within our community who truly deserve recognition. And certainly there are names on here that have been submitted to me already that I would certainly vote to have them on Citizens Bridge. I certainly have talked to my board members about this. I don't know what their whole feelings are. They they'll probably tell you as soon as I'm done speaking. But it's not like I'm against one name, but I like the opportunity to give the bridge multiple names of people we can recognize in our community who are here and in the future. If we lost a firefighter or a policeman in the line of duty, you know, they would be someone we would want to recognize, or any other town employee. We have people in our community who do outstanding work. They are heroes in their own right. We may want to add their names. So I thought for me, rather than just give it one name, I was looking at the concept of making it the Citizens Bridge where you could have multiple names. Now, I'm leaning that way because I personally think it's something that would be better for our town.
Well, I'll be a senator.
I think that we have to.
Yeah, we have to.
We'll adjourn the meeting. Recess. Yes, I did that.
Do you need to sit down? Keys. Grab your, did you lock? No. Grab your keys, walk upstairs, check upstairs.
What's up? Okay. Can you hear me? I just got the alarm shut off.
Boy, did we just get the holy hell from the Legion guy, the flag's in the wrong spot. It's supposed to be on the left. Oh. Whoops. And he was. It's not anything like that. That's what I get for you having me today, too. Because I sure didn't think you were going to do that.
Daryl,
Good surprise, that's very good.
How quickly you left the building.
You know why? I'll tell you the why.
Because you did that firefighter thing?
No, one time I sat in the building while I was coming off like an idiot going, okay, somebody will get this, it'll be fixed, and I got you nothing sitting in the building.
Then it went off, you were like, oh, okay.
Fire 101.
Daryl's like,
We're on. Fire training 101, baby.
That was fun.
It was.
Be like sitting home watching this.
Sweet. We have a fire drill, somebody stole my candy.
Which one? The orange
Oh,
one?
did you do it?
Are you missing an orange one? I tried to get him, but he got out the door.
Oh, man.
You want to explain what happened maybe, or tell the public why we...
Okay, here we are back. Sorry for that brief interruption. There was a fire alarm that went off. No fire, thank you. Caused possibly by dust in the alarm. Thank you for our fire department for responding and clearing the building. And we will get back to the discussion about the naming of the bridge. I've taken up a significant amount of time, and I want my fellow board members to chime in, so I will acquiesce to either. Jesse?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful, and I'll just do that, is just to name the 25 or so names that are acceptable from the E911 persons that Barb mentioned earlier. They are, in alphabetical order, Broken Jaw Bridge, Brungart Tess Teresa S. Bridge, Buttermilk Bridge, Centerville Bridge, Citizens Bridge, Dearborn Frank Bridge, or Dearborn Bridge, or Dearborn Frank H. Memorial Bridge, Ferrante Dora Bridge, Fireman's Bridge, Gibson Bridge, honoring Ernest W. Gibson Sr., Ernest W. Gibson Jr., Robert Gibson, and David Gibson, Gibson David A. Memorial Bridge, Giroux, Captain Frederick J. Joseph, Hughes Alfred Jr., Lolot's Bridge, Madison T. Howard Honorary Bridge, Milkery Bridge, Non-Dairy Bridge, O'Connor Timothy J. O'Connor Jr., R2-C2, and that stands for Rural 2, Creamery 2, Renewal Bridge, Rose and Gary, Thoreau Henry David Bridge, the Uncovered Bridge, Wayward Crossing, Williams Jody Memorial Bridge, or Williams Jody Peace Bridge.
Thank you, Jesse.
And if I might, I just, I know we have some people in the audience to speak about this matter, and probably to speak on behalf of one of the names I just read, but I'd like to hear from them. I think we don't have a full board here, and I'm thinking about moving to table this to our next meeting to make a decision. You know, once the bridge is named, whatever it is, whatever we decide, and I think it is, you know, under the charter, the board decides that name, it's, you know, pretty much set in stone. I think it would be helpful, you know, we've got these names out there. I'm not looking necessarily for additional names, but, you know, I have received a number of calls and also a number of emails, probably as many on any topic that I've had to deal with over the last 2.5 years, if not more than any other. So I don't know that I'm prepared at this point, Mr. Chairman, to vote on any particular name. I know we have some people from the public, and I'd certainly like to hear from them after Dora and Darrell have their say. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Well, I would agree with Jesse, actually. This isn't something that we absolutely have to do immediately, and I think that taking a little more time would be a good thing. And I think hearing public comment on the choices would help. You know, of course, my first choice would be the one that actually has my name in it, but I myself am, you know, and we want to hear from more people. I'm a little leery about the idea of naming it after a person, just because I think a lot of people get left out in that decision. But I have no favorite. I have nothing, you know, I'm not ready to make a decision, so.
Darrell?
Well, I do have a favorite, and if I was going to do it and had to do it, I'll tell you right now, I'd be voting for Captain Giroux. But when I heard Dick's proposal, and I have heard, like Jesse said, here's the correspondence that we have on paper. This doesn't even count what we got by email. A lot of people didn't want us, I even had some people that don't want us to name it after a war hero for sure, okay? And that's the way, personally, I would always go as a veteran, and that's just the way I feel. And then I got to thinking this is gonna be for the town of Brattleboro, I really gotta think about other people too. So I tend to lean toward Dick's thought process. I also would have no problem tabling this to let Martha have a vote in this also. But I see it now as, you know, and he brought up a perfect example. If we lose a fireman or a police officer in the line of duty, we could have a ceremony, you know, and honor that person and then put his name or her name in stone. But if it comes down to where we don't go on that one and we're just gonna be naming it after a person, I already said who I would go for. So folks, if you're listening and stuff, you may wanna get a hold of me. Because number one, that was a very good, you know, thing that I was sent, okay? I didn't even hardly know anything about the man. But you can say the same about almost every person on this list as far as the people go themselves. So anyway, I'm going on longer than I wanted to. I agree with Dick, but I don't have a problem tabling this to another time, and I would like to hear from the folks. You came, let's hear you.
Yeah, you've certainly been sitting here through all the whole meeting, most of you, and certainly I respect your right to come up and voice your opinion. My feeling is that the board will table this to its next meeting to make a decision, but if you would like to come up and speak, come up to the mic, give us your name and the town you're from, and we'll give you about 2 minutes to talk about who
My
you
name
are.
is Francis Spino,
Can I
better.
ask a question?
Hold on.
Can I ask a question?
Let Francis speak, and then you can ask.
Well, if we start speaking tonight,
Right.
and then it's gonna be brought up again with Martha here, shouldn't she hear it too?
You can always come back and say.
So we'd have to come back and repeat everything we've said tonight or more, is that correct?
If you feel that that's what you would like to do. You can do either, you can save
Well, she's
it.
not here and you wanna wait for.
I understand that, but I want to give you the opportunity, you've been sitting here all evening, I want to give you the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Just to also, if I might, Dick, this is being taped, and what Martha can do is to listen to this portion of the tape. It's about 7:45. We could suggest to her that she listen to this portion, probably take 15 minutes or something like that, and she could listen to that portion. So, not to cut you off, but you got to make a decision what you want to do. But I think Dick's right. I think we're not going to make a decision this evening, but that's to be determined.
Well, with all the work that's been put into this, I feel as though we should speak. My name is Francis Spino, better known as Buddy to most people in town. I'm here at the request of Mark Guger, who you all are familiar with the proposal that he has sent you, and with information about Captain Giroux and his commitment to his country, his hometown, and his family. I had the privilege of serving as an honor guard when his remains were returned to Brattleboro, and it was a very solemn affair. And believe me, when we marched up Main Street to the Morningside Cemetery, you could see a lot of people stopping and bowing their heads, and it was quite an emotional time for a lot of us veterans. I'd like to restate a small part of what Mark said in his recent letter to the Brattleboro Reformer. And this is quoting from what Mark had written. Those of us who have benefited from Captain Giroux's service and the service of all veterans past and present owe a great debt of gratitude to all who have served. I feel that continued dedication of our town bridges and our hometown heroes, but in a small way of recognizing their service and valor. None of us know what Captain Giroux endured in his last months of his life in captivity, or what his thoughts were before his death. Perhaps longing to be in his wife's warm embrace, sounds of his daughter's laughter in the green mountains of his hometown. As he was a bridge to safely for those lives he saved in the line of duty, I find it only fitting that the bridge be named in his honor. Now, when Captain Giroux, or lieutenant at the time, was fighting the Nazis in Germany, he put his life on line, saving some of his men. And he was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross by one of the greatest generals who ever fought in that war, General Patton. And if you know your history, General Patton never gave a medal unless a soldier deserved it. and damn well Captain Giroux deserved it. The family and friends of Captain Giroux will provide the funds for the plaque that will be placed on the bridge if it is dedicated in his name. At this time, I'd like to introduce his two daughters, Gail and Judy, who were siblings when he passed away. His grandson, Chris, his son-in-law, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
you.
I appreciate hearing from you.
Sam Haskins, District 1. I'd like to read a letter from the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I am writing as Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, post number 1034 in Brattleboro, in support of the suggestion for Captain Frederick Joseph Giroux for naming the new bridge near the Creamery Bridge in West Brattleboro. At our monthly meeting on September 16th, 2010, a unanimous vote of members present agreed that Captain Giroux's service in both the World War II and the Korean War would certainly qualify his name for consideration. He was a Brattleboro native, and his daughters still reside in the area. The Veterans of Foreign Wars, post number 1034, would appreciate yours and the Select Board's consideration in naming the bridge after the captain. Sincerely, Douglas McMurtry, Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Brattleboro, Vermont. I also heard the list read, and I mean, most of them, a lot of them were just different, weren't individuals, but there was individuals on there, and most of the individuals that I heard read were former employees of the town. They're paid employees, and hopefully they were doing their job over and above being a paid employee. I know that when I do my job as a paid employee, I make sure I do it to the highest standard, and I know that these individuals do also. I feel that at this time, hopefully, there won't be a police officer or a fire department or a firefighter that loses their life in the line of duty here in Brattleboro. But if that should happen, I would think that we would honor them in a certain way. Either something else would come up to honor them, that we would have a plaque available or something, a building or whatever, to name it for that individual that gave their life in the line of duty for as a fireman or a police officer. The other names I heard on there also was, we've had several places in town named after them and those individuals. But I believe, again, that as what Buddy has said, that the captain put his life out there in World War II, volunteered so that we could hold this meeting here, volunteered to go and fight for his country in World War II, and volunteered to go back in Korea, and was a prisoner of war for I don't know how long exactly, but then lost his life as a result of his injuries while a prisoner of war. And I would hope that the board would see fit to name this bridge after the captain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dick Hodgson, I'm the Commandant of the Marine Corps League Detachment 798 here in Brattleboro. And with all due respect to the board and our town manager, I am here in support also of Captain Giroux. You've heard all the details, you've read the dossier on him, the credits, the articles. Myself, I was a combat veteran in Vietnam, but after reading these articles about this gentleman, one of the great generation people, I was humbled, to be honest with you, at the service and sacrifice that this man made for his country. And then to come back home, go to work at the American Optical and support his family. And then when the Korean War started, he once again heeded the call of his country and went to war again, only to be captured shortly after he was in Korea and spending a torturous life to the end in a communist prisoner of war camp. And I suppose everybody's read about the things that have happened there. I know I have. So I'd just like to reiterate support for Captain Frederick Joseph Giroux on behalf of the Marine Corps League. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Well, thank you for coming. As you can see, there's always issue when something, when we try to do something that's well-intended Obviously, there's different feelings, and I don't think that there is one board member that disputes anything that any of you had said here this evening. But there certainly are different opinions, and no one is disputing the facts before us. I certainly wish that I could have met Mr. Giroux. But be that as it may, we're going to table this until the October 5th meeting. I'll need a motion to table this to October 5th.
I'll move to table it.
And I certainly encourage people to contact all of us, certainly write letters to the editor, if you will. As I said in the beginning, I certainly hope that this doesn't become a contest. It shouldn't be a contest. And I certainly think that there are names that people felt passionate about when they put them in, and they have different meanings to different people, and far be it from me to sit here and say, that's not a good name because it doesn't rise to the level of what we're looking for. So a whole different set of issues here for us. So, Jesse, I'll accept your motion to table this to October 5th. All those in favor? Do we have to vote on that, Barbara?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do. Yeah, all those in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Thank you.
And if the board likes, this would be under unfinished business.
Yeah,
and at
so
the
this will
next
be up
meeting,
early.
So it'll be up in the beginning of the meeting.
Beginning of the meeting. And I want to thank all of you for coming and expressing yourselves. I know it's heartfelt and difficult, so thank you very much for coming here this evening.
Next, with the cemetery committee, the board had recently announced a vacancy on the town cemetery committee. We received no applications for that, but we have received another resignation. So we are asking you that you again announce the 2 vacancies, and that you set a date for when those applications should be in.
Today is the 21st. How about take applications up until the 8th? 8th of October?
That's fine.
That's a Friday.
2.5 weeks, yeah, that should be enough.
And then the board is then asked to appoint 2 new members to the town's ADA Advisory Committee, Gary Snyder and Elizabeth Snyder. And I'm not sure if they are related. They have separate addresses, so.
There you go.
Doesn't mean much anymore, does it?
That's, yeah.
I'll accept the motion.
They have found the key.
Move to appoint Gary Snyder and Elizabeth Snyder to the ADA Advisory Committee.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4-0. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering.
Lastly, the board is asked to discuss how you'd like to proceed with your FY12 budget process. So you just want to set some work sessions and get going on that. Is there something else we're supposed to be doing? Oh, okay.
Where,
I wasn't sure you were here, okay.
where do you stand with department heads turning their budgets into you?
They have, they've turned in and made changes to the capital budget, and now we're working with the departmental budgets. I was hoping we could start with the capital budget this year. But as far as the department budgets, we'll be able to start that within probably 3 weeks.
Now, Jesse's idea last year of having that one-day meeting, although grueling, and I need to talk to Daryl, is Saturday, as a Saturday all-day work session going to work for you?
Well, what day would you be doing it on?
Probably I was looking at, for that, was November 4th. I was looking through the calendar. I think that's a
Boy,
Saturday.
that's pretty tough for me, because that means 2 days off. I have to take Friday night off and Saturday night off. Want to do it Tuesday? Take a day off, Jess.
It's possible, it's possible. If I get advance notice of it, I could do that.
I mean, I can do Tuesdays.
I was gonna bring my calendar and I forgot.
You can't do Wednesday, right? Is that when they do motions?
I can do Wednesday too,
Well,
actually. I work
No.
that night, but I could do a Wednesday if you.
Yeah, Wednesday
if we
might
did a
work.
9 o'clock,
Yeah.
I mean, so I can see.
Tuesday or
those.
Wednesday, I just need to know in advance. I would need to check my schedule before
Okay.
we set it, but I can give you a call
Okay,
If
tomorrow.
you wanna do an all-day one, that's when I
Yeah.
could do it, Tuesday,
When-
otherwise I gotta take 2 days.
Is that too far out?
Well,
that
what we
put-
could do, we are asking that the board set we didn't set the meeting yet, right, for the water sewer commissioners?
No, we're
That's
gonna do
why you're
that.
here. Okay, we'd like to, so if you would like, we could do that this, well, this week, and then people could bring their calendars. We'd have Martha here, and we could
Okay.
bring our calendars to set the work session.
Okay,
That's good.
Would that work?
Yeah,
Then we'll
noon on
set-
Friday?
yeah.
So when do you folks want to do your,
Well, let me, okay.
oh, I'm
let's
sorry.
see.
Pardon.
Let me make a motion to go back into water and sewer commissioners.
I'll make a motion that we go back into water and sewer commission.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, is Friday, is that when we want to have this, Friday, 12 noon?
I don't think the,
I can't do Thursday, so.
it's, I don't think this is gonna take you, it won't even be an hour, I think, to go over the proposals that we have for me to explain the project, and so that's what you're looking at, is
So Friday noon?
Yeah.
45 minutes to an hour, I think.
And then we could set
Friday.
We'll
work
set our-
sessions, maybe, or
our work
I'll let
sessions
you know
on.
what dates work.
Okay, Friday noon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Be a little dreamy-eyed, but hey.
24th.
on the 24th, we'll meet here at 12:30, or 12 o'clock as water and sewer, well, as select board members and water sewer commissioners.
Okay. You want to come out of that?
I'll accept the motion to come
So
out of
moved.
water and sewer commissioners.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0, thank you. Okay, so we'll set those meetings, we'll have everybody with their calendars, and we'll, the earlier that we can start, certainly, I think we probably would set a couple of morning or afternoon meetings prior to that Saturday.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say.
Probably try to get rid of
Yeah,
that
you
capital.
can't get everything done in one day, but
So, we'll look to do that on Friday.
Yeah, because you definitely, you waste that all day. You don't get as much done on that all-day meeting if you don't have a little
Right.
preparation for it.
Yep.
Okay, correspondent reports, those are the department head reports. I continue to thank the department heads for the reports, very good information in there
ditto.
Definitely.
for that. Warrants are in there. And I think that's it. Meetings?
Meetings, the basics, the Brattleboro area
Skate is coming.
skate is coming, thank you. 6 PM, September 23rd, Select Board Meeting Room. Just note that's a new place, Select Board Meeting Room. Charter Review Commission, 6:30, September 23rd, on the Hannah Cosman. Planning Commission, 6 PM, September 27th, in the Select Board Meeting Room. Conservation Commission, 5:15, September 28th, Hannah Cosman. Charter Review Commission, these are the public hearings on September 28th and 29th. These are really important meetings. This is when the Charter Review Commission will be discussing with the public the proposed changes. So those are 6:30, they begin at 6:30, September 28th and 29th, and that's at the Marlboro Tech Center. Development Review Board, 6 PM, October 4th, Select Board Meeting Room. Solid Waste Committee, 1:30 PM, October 5th, Hannah Cosman. Town Arts Committee, 4 PM, October 5th, Hannah Cosman. Select Board, next regular Select Board meeting, 6:15, October 5th, right here, same place.
And I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Just one thing. We had warrants, and I see that we didn't have warrants in our packet this time. Is that? And I didn't know whether that was going to be a discussion or not on that subject. I did not see them in there.
No, that was an oversight.
Okay.
I apologize.
There weren't that many of them.
All right, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
We already have the motion.
Oh, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
In terms of doing something different.
Jesse, when you read that.
Do we have to sign anything?
Is that something we want to get?
My dinner's on the table. Are we signing anything?
Yeah, I read that. I'm concerned about that. I thought we
If we are,
I think, I don't think so, actually, because we didn't pass any.
I usually sign stuff.